I have just been watching Waldin Bendy, that is Waldemir Januszak and Bendel Grosner, and they were going round the exhibition of Joseph Wright of Derby, which is at the National Gallery, and I think they have missed the point, or not explained well, the art of Joseph Wright of Derby. And I think Joseph Wright of Derby is one of Britain's most underrated artists, because he's a very mysterious artist, and his work is connected with secret societies, especially Freemasonry, which was created in 1717 and was a major important influence on the Enlightenment. And we can see this in the paintings of Joseph Wright of Derby, with his most famous painting called Experiment with an Air Pump, where you have a scientist doing an experiment and he's testing how long the bird can survive when you withdraw the oxygen. Now if we look at the central figure, it looks like God, and we have this spiritual light, and you have the depiction of the full moon in his paintings, and he used to be connected to a society called the Lunar Society, which was a society of Freemasons who used to meet when the moon was at full moon, and this is why you have the full moon in his paintings. But it also shows you how there was this huge change in thought from the Baroque period, which was a devoutly religious period, to the Enlightenment and man's quest for knowledge. And this quest for knowledge is actually the quest of Lucifer. So with knowledge, man can become God with the forbidden knowledge. Remember, we have that passage in the Bible. And in this time, you still had a religious society. So they met in secret and did these experiments and thought about things which have come true in the future, like we live in this modern scientific age. And it is kind of scary at that time that man has become in possession of this knowledge, which can make man become God of all he surveys. And this is why you have the central figure depicted as a god, man as God. He's also doing the as above, so below gesture with his hands. Again, this relates to Freemasonry and Hermeticism, this secret knowledge that man has within, that man can become God. And it also shows you this idea of duality, because man can use science for good, or he can use science for evil. And this is what the drama of this painting is about. Is the bird going to die, or is he going to let the bird live? And so there is a kind of duality in the experiment. So it is similar to Stanley Kubrick's film 2001, where the apes touch the monolith. Then it makes the apes intelligent. They pick up a bone. It can be used as a weapon, or it can be used as a tool. And through this duality, then it switches to the future. And we see a spaceship with the all-seeing eye HAL, which is an AI intelligence. And then he switches off the intelligence, because this is the... if man uses this for evil, then man can become trapped in material matter. And so this is a spiritual quest, and this is shown in the paintings of Joseph Wright of Derby due to this chiaroscuro, which he took from Caravaggio, and I will explain further. So we have this painting, an experiment on a bird in an air pump, and it is connected to the Lunar Society, a secret society who used to meet in secret. And remember, you have the creation of Freemasonry in 1717, and all these people were high-level Freemasons. And so let's look at Caravaggio's painting of Supper of Emmaus, and we can see that Joseph Wright of Derby based his painting on this painting where you have Christ. You also have the shadows, which is a prominent part of Joseph Wright of Derby's paintings. And here the central figure is God and the divine and Jesus. But in Joseph Wright's painting, it is man that becomes Jesus. Man, with this knowledge, with this enlightenment knowledge, with this Lucifer, can become God, and can become the Christ with this knowledge, if used correctly. And this is the main theme, I believe, of his paintings. And you can see that in the Caravaggio, the light is the sacred light. But in Wright of Derby, that light, that mystical light, becomes a light of alchemy and of illumination and of man's quest to become illuminated. And so we have the Lunar Society, which had figures like Matthew Bolton, James Watt, Josiah Wedgwood, who was a Freemason. All of them were Freemasons. a prominent figure was Erasmus Darwin, who was the grandfather of Charles Darwin. So you can see all these figures are connected. And Charles Darwin, of course, had a more anthropological look at man, which denied the Bible. So you can see how science questioned what was taken for granted in the Bible. And this is kind of the forbidden knowledge of Lucifer. And man is using this knowledge to become God. And that's what the paintings show. And you have this mystical air, because it is mystical. It is mystical, finding these greater secrets about nature and about man's position to that nature, and what is this quest of enlightenment that man is on. And that's what you see in the paintings of Joseph Wright of Derby. So you have all these figures like Erasmus Darwin, who was the grandfather of Charles Darwin. Let's look at a quote from Arthur C. Clarke. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And that's what we have with the paintings of Joseph Wright and Derby. He's showing you that this is a form of alchemy and a form of magic, a form of hidden knowledge. Remember, this was still a time where the majority of the people were deeply devout. And this was a minority of intellectuals meeting under the full moon, discussing secret knowledge, hermeticism, and doing these scientific experiments, which would change the destiny of man. And we have a painting by Joseph Wright of Derby called The Alchemist. And we can see it here. So I hope you can see that there. There's the painting, The Alchemist, where this painting is influenced by the Spanish painter Josep de Ribera, with his paintings of saints, and saints like Saint Jerome. But in this painting, he takes the pose of a saint, but he's actually doing alchemical experiments, again under the full moon, the lunar society, occult knowledge kept from the public. And it is man, through this secret knowledge, the quest for illumination, enlightenment, man as God. And this is what you see in the paintings of Joseph Wright of Derby, but you also see the caution, and this is why you have the black and white floor, that man can use these technologies, as we see in the modern age, for good or for evil. And if it's used for evil, then man will be trapped within material matter. And this takes us into our modern age, where we have all these technologies, and in the past they were thought of as alchemy and all the strange stuff these secret societies do. And that you have to understand that to understand the paintings of Joseph Wright of Derby. And we can see here the full moon, the lunar society. That's why you have the full moon. You have the shadows, and remember, the moon is connected with the occult, with secret societies, with Isis, the goddess Isis. And this is man's quest for knowledge, and man is God at the centre of the painting, and he's doing an as above so below gesture. And what he's showing you is the duality of this knowledge, how this knowledge in the wrong hands can create destruction, but it also can illuminate man and make man closer to the knowledge of God. And that's why his paintings are so mysterious, and they have this light. But the light is not the same as the light in a Caravaggio painting, which he was inspired by, or a Ribera painting. The light in Wright of Derby is showing that this light is the light of man's illumination, rather than the divine light of God, as was seen in the Baroque period. Thank you.